Well, hey, everybody, it's Scott Golden, and welcome to episode 8 of our podcast From the Ground Up. It's a podcast about autism, faith, and family. And I'm joined tonight by my co host, Megan Halpert. Welcome, Megan.
Hey, Scott, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. I am so excited about our episode tonight.
We're not going to talk about insurance tonight, right?
No, we're not talking about insurance. Yes.
But we're going to come back to that because it really is an important topic, and that is how treatments get paid for. So it's important to do that. But based on a couple of changes, we thought, hey, let's bring in a guest tonight. So, right, we're going to have a guest. Tell us a little bit about our guest, Megan.
We are going to have our first guest. Her name is Missi Kennedy, and she is the president and founder of Care Cuts. I met Missi back in 2017 and got to know her on a personal level and her gifts, and she's also an autism mom. And so when we were talking about guests and having people on to speak to their journeys and also to find the purpose in their journey, she was the first person that popped into my head. And so I wanted to bring her on and allow her to talk us through her journey of being she's also another awesome autism mom, super autism mom like your wife.
Tends to be that. They run in a pack, don't they?
Yes, they do. And so what she's done is she's actually started a nonprofit. Her gifts is she is a hairstylist. And so one of the areas that a lot of kids with autism struggle with is getting their hair cut. There's just so many sensory issues that can surround that. And then let alone having to go to a place that they don't go on a regular basis is just very overwhelming for them. And so Missi has figured out a way to use her gifts and her talents to serve other kids. And I don't want to sit here and talk about her. I want her to have the opportunity to share a little bit about her. Missi, how are you this evening?
Hi, thank you. I'm doing great. So glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Welcome to our program, and thank you for being our first guest of our program, not victim, our first guest. Thank you for your willingness to try.
I'm very honored. I just hope I can make you guys proud. Live up to your amazing
Just remember,
standards.
what we fail to produce in professionalism is made up in enthusiasm. Okay, so we're gonna be excited, even if we're weak at this. Okay.
I got that.
Missi, could you just tell us a little bit of your background? Just tell us a little bit about your biography, and I mean, even like there's life before autism and life after autism. Tell us a little bit about life before autism. Okay.
Life before autism. I've been a hairdresser for 30 years, blessed with 4 incredible kids. So life before autism was balancing work, life, sport, just typical everyday grinding kind of stuff. When my youngest was born, so there is actually 20 years between my oldest and my youngest.
Wow.
And so our girls were in college. Our son, Matthew, was in high school. I laughed and said that I cried a little too hard when Matthew started high school. And that's why God was like, oh, you're sad. Your baby's starting school. There you go. So along came Jess, and our lives got kicked up a notch. And a family member described Jess as the cherry on the Kennedy sundae, and he was just the perfect addition of our little family. But then, autism entered, and things got a little bit trickier. It was fine and good, just a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, one question I'd be curious about, Missi, is because I know that there's a lot of people that are listening. We're hoping that we're reaching people that have recently got a diagnosis, because those are the people that are really in that battle trying to think things through. Could you tell us what it was like a little bit when you were first going through this? What were some of your thoughts? What were some of your fears? What were maybe some preconceived notions you had about what life on the autism spectrum was going to be like?
Right. And the thing about it, like, to me, autism wasn't a scary word. I had actually had clients that were autistic prior and had known several different families and children on the spectrum. So it wasn't a scary word to me, but it was a word that I knew there was a lot behind it. And so My first initial reaction was you just start reading. And the only thing, Jess is 12 now. So there's definitely been a lot of changes that have taken place since Jess was first diagnosed. He was not 2 when we got his diagnosis. And so all you read about was just early services, like getting into therapy immediately right away. So literally I had him in speech therapy. I don't even think it was 2 weeks. And I'm like, I'm gonna pay, we're gonna bypass insurance, we're gonna do whatever, but we've got to get the ball rolling. So we started speech OT. At that time, I don't believe we had started PT, but we just jumped in both feet and never looked back, honestly.
Mm. Tell us a little bit about Jess.
Jess is a wonderful boy. Um, so Jess was nonverbal until he was around 4, and just some incredible things started happening. We had a wonderful team behind him, and we started getting bits and pieces of words. So that was absolutely glorious. But just from a very early age, has loved his iPad, and he can find amazing things like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Phineas and Ferb, all on his iPad. So anything to do with any of these characters just fills Jess with so much joy. And so that in turn fills us with this joy. Jess is an extremely picky eater and has never ate very well. And as a matter of fact, when Jess was 3, my husband traveled a lot internationally, and Jess went for, at this point, I think it was 3 days not eating anything. And I was just, didn't, I mean, you don't know what to do. And he was already a pretty particular eater at the time. But the only thing that I could think about is that we frequented a Mexican restaurant close to our house a lot. And with everybody's schedules and stuff, that literally would be like the one place everyone would stop and meet to have dinner. And so I took Jess, we went at lunchtime, and I was trying to get him to eat his favorite thing, which is rice. And all of a sudden, this beautiful baby just started scarfing this bowl of rice. And I'm like, so I asked the waitress if we could have another bowl. The boy ate like 5 bowls of rice at lunch. And I'm like, okay, go home. I'm going to try to get him to eat some dinner. Nope, wasn't anything. Same thing, didn't happen. Next day, take him back to the Mexican restaurant. That day, we went 3 times, and he ate rice every single time we were there. So that
Wow.
started literally, so that was 3. He has just quit eating rice about, I don't know if it's been maybe 4 months ago. But so literally that's the only thing that my son has ate from 3 to, so it's a big joke in our family about rice being a very important thing. He's very ticklish. He's very funny. He's hilarious and his little antics, but he's gotten a lot more vocal now. And so we just absolutely love hearing the most beautiful, crazy things that come out of his mouth. It's just beautiful.
Yes.
It's absolutely beautiful. We love it.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started in the care cuts and what prompted that for you.
So I started doing hair because I like to make people happy. Someone could come in having a horrible day, and I can turn that day around. And that's just something I've always liked to do. That's just me. So Jess comes along, and we're sitting in one of our mini therapies, and it just happened. And this is in the very beginning. And I'm noticing literally every little boy sitting in this room all has a buzzed head. And hair is something that I notice. I'm very partial to it. I think hair is beautiful. I was just very saddened to see, and I thought, it's not even summer. Like, why has everybody got their head shaved? They're not playing sports. This is all what I would tie to shaving heads back at the time. And so I started talking little bit by little bit to different moms about it. And I was like, I never had taken deep thought. Again, I had worked with clients in the past. I had even had multiple children just that had high sensory issues, not even on the spectrum. And so I knew that there were difficulties that came with that, but I had never stopped to think about it on this kind of a professional level. So I decided at that point that I'd been given a gift, and I was raised and brought up in the fact that we all have one. You just have to figure out to know what yours is. And I've always felt like serving is something that I was meant to do. I just didn't know in what capacity. And then all of a sudden it was just like, let's help these families, because it's it's a lot for the families. It's a lot for the moms and the dads that are crying in parking lots or crying in hair salons. The kids are hysterical. They're throwing up. There are horrible things that take place. And as a parent, you want to comfort and console and make things better for your child. And we're not always able to do that. So I just want to try to make it easier on the child, which in turn is going to make it better for the parent.
Maybe, and I think you've probably studied this, and maybe Megan, you can talk about it as well, is what is going through an autistic child's mind when they're having these issues of sensory. What I think for people, moms and dads that are new to this, they may not understand just how overwhelming that is. So could you describe what some of these sensory issues that we're talking about, what that looks like from a child's standpoint?
Sure. Well, and Megan might be a little bit more in it as far as the I don't know, the technical terms and stuff behind it, because it's different for each child. So like one child might not like just even the simple touch. Some friends don't like to be touched whatsoever. Some friends don't like the vibration of a clipper. Like if you were doing a haircut with a clipper, vibrations are it's just too much stimulation for them to be able to handle. I have some friends that they can hear if I just open the blade of my shears, and that's not something you or I, could understand. So I can't imagine what it has to feel like for them. And Megan, you would probably know again a little bit more.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the anxiety. We know that our kiddos with autism have an increased level of anxiety. They thrive on their routines, they thrive on the expectation. And so a haircut's not something we do every day, right? It's not something we do in a routine. And so I'm going to go to a different place. I'm going to sit in this chair. There's going to be all kinds of different noises. If you're going to go to a salon or I don't know what the right technical term is, but a place that cuts hair in one of those strip malls, you're going to have hair dryers, you're going to have loud music, you're going to have other people, you're going to have the water running in the sink as people are getting their hair washed. If it just so happens to have a place that does nails too, you're going to have all of those sounds. So that's a lot to process. And that's a lot for their little bodies to take everything in at one time, especially in a very new and novel situation. So I think that definitely plays into it for sure, as well as, again, our kids, they thrive on routine, they thrive on expectations, and things that are the same and routine help them. So if I get my hair cut, I'm not going to necessarily look the same, right? I'm going to look a little bit different. So I don't know exactly how to process that. I know when my kiddos, whenever Grayson was little, we took him for his first haircut, and Stinson for their first haircuts. They were anxious, and they don't have autism. So I think it's overwhelming for kids in general. But then we just throw this complexity of not understanding really what's going on or not knowing that can really play into it. And I've worked with kiddos who we've just literally taken it step by step. Like we don't even cut hair. One kiddo I worked with, we did in-home. We literally just went to the salon every day for like 2 weeks.
Right.
And then we got him to sit in the chair. And then once that routine is established and they understand the expectation, they're good to go. So I've witnessed Missy do phenomenal things and get on the floor with kids, roll around with kids, wear crazy outfits to get them entertained and distract them. So Missy, would you mind just talking a little bit about, I've witnessed it with my eyes. I want you to share with everybody what some of the ways that you go about doing this and how you've had to adapt your skill set and your gifts.
Sure. Well, yeah, most of my friends don't sit in chairs, nor do they wear capes. With some, that's definitely something we have working towards and have accomplished, which is amazing. But Most of my friends, like, we can sit on the floor. I have some that climb on like jungle gyms. And so I'm just climbing and just trying to stay in a safe area if I'm holding sharp things while they're playing, because it's very important for me for the child to be comfortable. Like, I want them to, if their happy place is in their backyard digging in the dirt, then I'm going to sit in that backyard and dig in the dirt, because I want that child to feel safe. I want that child to be happy, because when something as traumatic as a haircut is taking place, the least that I can do is allow them to be comfortable while we're doing it. I'll do the same type of thing. We might be, if I have a friend that we're playing in the water, so I might go in at a super quick snip of the hair, and then we're splashing in the water, and then we'll wait a few minutes, and then I'll go back in another snip of the hair, and then we go directly back to playing in the water, so as to take their mind off the anxiety that is building every time I touch their hair, or I go in for, whether it's with the clippers or the scissors, just to try to help to ease their minds. I had one mom that had called me, like, how did she put it? The haircut ninja, because it's like, and then you're out. You go in and then you're out. And I was like, oh man, I would love if I was really that fast in real life, but only when it comes to my like, what I run, like a 20-hour mile. It's just one of those things, trying to help them to feel, I don't want to say happy, because most of them are never happy when I'm around, but just a little bit more at ease, I think, is what I try to make them while we're snipping or while we're cutting. And I've cut hair upside down. I've cut hair riding around in Power Wheels. I mean, there's very few places. Cut hair in bathtubs. I've not cut hair in a swimming pool, but I've cut hair beside a swimming pool, so then they can just jump in the pool. So it's just all about putting them at the most ease that they can be.
That's amazing. I love
Missy, can I ask this? Because I think part of being an autistic parent is understanding that your normal is going to be different than somebody else's normal, right? I mean, and to some extent, you just have to get prepared for this is something different. You're just going to have to take a different approach, and eventually, there's going to be a normal about it.
Right.
Do you work with the parents to help them accept that idea of a different kind of normal, that they just have to accept a different normal for a while?
I do, and I think that's another thing that, again, I feel so blessed and so lucky with having care cuts, because I have met so many amazing families, and to me, it's really like, I look back now and we're in a rhythm. I mean, is it a good one? Some weeks, but Jess is 12 now, and we've gotten a lot of things under control, I guess is the best way to put it. But I meet some of these young parents and new diagnosis and so forth, and I'm like, my heart hurts for them, and remembering what it was like in those beginning days and all the hardships. So I try to share as much as I can. And it doesn't matter. Like, I share the good and the bad, because that's something that I felt was really hard for me at the time with Jess, because Jess, he is a beautiful boy, he's a joy. However, there was a lot of dark times with Jess, and we had a lot of aggression. And when Jess, it was a really long time for him to get words, and it was really hard. And I felt very isolated. When your child is aggressive, it's not something that parents share or parents talk about. Nobody wants to hear. And you don't really want to share that I was having some health issues, and literally I had surgery on my knee. And I remember being in Jess's room one night, and Jess was not a sleeper. And I'm thinking, I am scared of my 4-year-old. Like, I am not able to get away from my 4-year-old. And I just remember, like, thinking, I can't tell anybody that. How does that look as a mom, that you're scared of your child? But now I look back and I'm like, I'm supposed to share that because there are other moms that feel that way and are embarrassed or don't want people to know that they're scared of their child. It's a horrible feeling, but I do. I try to share hair tips. I try to share my super big preach constantly with hair is desensitizing. I try to share any little things that I feel that can help them, whether it be in the hair cutting world or even just in life in general. I'm, as you can obviously tell, quite a big talker, so I'm always quite happy to share.
What are some things along the path that if you could look back now, 12 years before or 12 years, what are some things that you would go back and you would tell yourself to try to make that path a little bit easier? Because obviously you've learned some lessons along the way. What would be some things? Because I think that's good advice for those others that are just joining this journey. But what would be some things you would tell yourself?
I think in the beginning, like you take every doctor's word as gospel. You take every therapist's word as gospel, and you're just looking for answers. And I just don't think that's necessarily the right thing to always do. I think you got to trust your mama gut. I feel like no one knows your child better than you, regardless. And even though they might say things were going to be the best route for Jess, now I look back and I think, you know what? I It probably wasn't. It wasn't, and I should have known better. But at the time, you're young and you don't. So I think that would be my biggest thing to go back and tell Missy in the beginning is think and do what's best for Jess and for our family. I think that would have been a little bit different thing. I mean, we've done a lot for our family. We moved from Georgia to Texas for Jess Kennedy. So
I mean,
Wow.
Texas is a great
Yeah.
state. Granted, I moved away from there, but it's my second choice. If I could get my whole family to move to Texas, I'd come
Yeah.
back.
yeah. I mean, I that's what it was funny because I was thinking about that and the things that you've done for your child. I'm like, yeah, pretty much everything we do revolves around Jess Kennedy. Our four other three, they're like, well, it doesn't matter, whatever Jess wants. Great parenting, great parenting.
I believe that having an autistic sibling can actually be a positive impact. Have there been any positive impacts on your other kids as a result of Jess being on the spectrum? Has it had a positive impact on them?
Well, I think that it has not only made them better people, but both my girls have children of their own now, and not only seeing them be moms, which is, oh my gosh, it's the most amazing thing, but seeing how they are aware of other children, whether my granddaughter has started kindergarten this year, and then my grandson, just their realization of other individuals in this world that are a little bit different. I think that's such the problem in today's society. Everybody has to be perfect and everything has to be just so. And we forget about all these incredible different people around us. And it makes me so proud that all three of my children are very much aware of that. And they pass down and continue that kind of observation and kindness to others.
Well, and just the value that your grandkids are going to have knowing Jess and just the advocates they're going to be for other kids that they come into contact with throughout their years is just going to be such a blessing, all just because of Jess. We've talked about this with Colby, but just the same, like it's just this almost root system that started with Jess, but is just continuing out for people to be blessed because of him.
Absolutely. And it is the most beautiful thing in the world to watch. And it was the same, like my oldest granddaughter, Ellaby. She was always, Jess makes a lot of loud noises. He makes a lot of movements and so forth. And when Ellaby was a baby, she would just sit and just like smile so sweetly at him, like, oh my gosh, he is having so much fun. And then now Finn, my grandson, he doesn't pay a lick of attention to Jess, but then comes along Catherine, my latest granddaughter, and she's the same. And the look on their face, like, he's just the coolest, greatest guy ever. And it doesn't bother them a bit. And he's the same, like he's so sweet with them, which is thank you, Jesus, for that. 'Cause,
Yes.
but that was a big, huge concern, but how he looks at them too. But you're exactly right. And again, it goes back to the thing, like I was saying before, like when they're going to be in school and they're going to have children that are different sitting in their classes. And instead of being like, oh, what's wrong with that kid? Ellaby or Catherine can be like, oh, well, that's like my Uncle Jess. And that's just beautiful. And that will continue down for just for them on their life's journey. So he as rotten and as precious as he is, I have so many people in our lives on our journey that still text or still reach out talking about the impact and the love that they had for my baby. And that's huge. That's huge. And that's just God working.
Let me ask this, Missy, as we talk about God, I know for myself, I went through some dark times on the path of autism. And quite frankly, my faith was challenged. It was shaken. Do you mind sharing? Was there any point along the way that you felt like you really had to struggle with God, or you had to try to come to grips with how this was going to affect your faith?
Well, I've been through a lot of storms in my life. And so how I was raised was you can struggle, but you can't question. There's reasons, and he's going to get you through. And my mother passed away suddenly, and I remember people being like, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. How could he do this? And as hard and as dark it was for me then, I knew there was a reason. And so the nights that I spent crying, terrified of my child, I just kept thinking, okay, what's coming from this? And could you hurry it up to show me what's coming from this? But I never felt, I just didn't understand, I guess. So I laugh. I had quite a delicious Christian upbringing. My mother's side, I was raised Lutheran, and my dad's side was Primitive Baptist.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it was an interesting childhood.
That's two different cultures. Yeah.
Let me tell you.
I had one very similar to that, so I can appreciate it.
Yeah. So it was really funny when I remember being like, well, I'm a little scared about Baptist, but my grandma used to say, what was it they were called? Now, my grandparents were from Iowa, and so or was that the Methodist? They were called the Frozen Chosen.
Yes.
It's what she used to say. And so I remember, like, as a child sitting in church, and now as an adult, like, I realized, like, it was the Holy Spirit working in me, and I would feel stuff, and I'd be like crying, and I'm like, and I'm looking around, and everybody's just sitting there, and I remember, talking to my Grammy about it, and she was like, keep that to yourself. We don't want the people on the pew seeing you cry. My Grammy played the piano, so she'd be up in the front and be like, after Alyssa was born, I started going not to a Primitive Baptist church, but to a Baptist church in our area. And so we would do the Lutheran church service at 8:30, and then we would go to the Baptist at 11. And I remember being like, "Oh, right, I can finally cry in church. I can." Feels good. My Grammy, she still didn't get it, but I was happy to be allowed to feel the Spirit in which way. So, but I say that in the fact that I had a lot of very strong women influences in my life, and their faith was absolutely unshakable. And the paths and the journeys they took prior to me makes autism look like a walk in the park. So I never had that anger. I just had that, all right, what are we doing here? What am I supposed to get? What am I doing? What do I need? That kind of a question.
Yeah. Were you able to find some purpose in all of this, or have you been able to put together the pieces of how this is being used by God to bring glory to him?
I feel that, and I'm sure you understand this, as a special needs parent, it's very kind of isolating. We don't we don't socialize, we don't get out. It's just kind of part of it. So I really, knowing that my purpose of being able to cut friends' hair also walks hand in hand with being able to go and share, uplift, and give a little bit of joy and hope, hopefully, to these families that I come in contact with care cuts. And none of this would have been possible without the gift of Jess Kennedy, because I would have probably continued to do hair. But I remember thinking that, and it's horrible to say, I had amazing clients and was blessed by them in different ways. But I remember being like, I can't stand behind a chair and listen to someone complain about something that no longer meant a hill of beans to me in my life. It was just very difficult. I'm like, you
Yes.
want to talk about hardship? It's not that you overpaid for a dress from Macy's. Like, it's that you've been up for like 3 days. Like,
Yeah.
that's, I'm having a rough time as I'm coiling your hair, feeling bad for you because this is just,
Yeah.
Oh, you
it's
got to
not
go
really
shopping
hard.
by yourself without children. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. And you have to
Yeah.
go back to take the dress back. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, overpaid. So
Yeah.
sad. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
do. I
Mm,
feel
mm.
that this has led me to the path where I'm supposed to be, whether it's helping with haircuts or whether it's holding a crying mama. It's
Yeah.
what I need to be doing, what I have to do.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit more about care cuts, and if somebody was interested in your services, how would they go
Yeah,
about contacting you? Okay.
absolutely. So I have a website, carecuts.org, and you can go on the website. You can read a little bit about me and about what we do. At this point in time, I travel all over the DFW area. I have clients down in Ennis to Aledo to Anna. I don't. I'm still learning Texas. So honestly, thank thank goodness
You've
for
covered the
GPS.
four corners of the DFW Metroplex for that
Yeah,
content.
that's what I say. I drive about 1,000 miles a week, and I only work 2.5 days a week. So that tells you
A lot of
my
windshield
drive.
time.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of windshield time. Thank God it protects me. That's for sure on these roads. But you can email me. I'm always happy to text. I'm always happy to talk with a parent prior, because I like to know a little bit about past experiences. I'd like to share a little bit about my thoughts, what we could try and do, and even just meeting face to face is always a great thing as well. But yeah, just reaching out through my website or emailing is probably the best way. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. They can find me there, which that's KLLC is the handles for Facebook and Instagram. But they can find me there.
See, what about those people
Well,
that may not be in the Metroplex area? Do you
Yes,
do videos, or do you have any classes or courses that they could maybe help them on their
I
own?
do. I do. Thank you. Yes, when COVID hit, things got a little bit peculiar. And so, yes, I actually have a course that will help to teach parents if they so choose to cut their hair at home, which we actually have had clients from all over the world that just has all of like my tips, my methods of things that I incorporate and with my haircuts every day. So that course is available on the website as well. I do video chats. I do FaceTime. I'll even walk through phone calls if they're not able to do any type of video. But I just want to help in any way, shape, or form that I can. And it's not easy. It's not easy on me who knows how to hold shears and clippers and things of that nature. So for a parent to take this on is just, I'm just in such awe, and I just want to do everything I can to help raise them up and give them the best tools and the abilities to try to help their child, help their family.
What if I owned my own salon and I wanted to train my staff? Is that something you'd be open and willing to do as well?
Absolutely, yes, because there are so many friends and families out there that could use our help. I would love to help salons to come in, and I can spend a half a day, again, sharing my tips and methods. And just really, it helps to open a door for so many salons, so many stylists, just looking maybe they have a bigger heart. Maybe they want to give a little extra something back to families. Maybe they have a client with a child on the spectrum and the families just don't know what else to do. So I would absolutely love to talk with a salon, or even individual stylists can reach out. I'd be so happy to help and share any tips.
I love it. I'm so thankful for you, Missy, and for your mission and what you've done, and to know you. It's been an absolute blessing. Thank you for your time sharing with that.
Megan, just briefly wanted to remind everybody a couple of things that we would ask of you. First off is, if you're enjoying this series, please like and share this with others that you may be coming in contact with, families that have special needs kids. Please feel free to share this. We think it's going to be a blessing to them. Second is, if you are in the North Tarrant County area, the Hills Church, the church that I go to, has 3 campuses, one in West Fort Worth, one in North Richland Hills, one in Keller. All 3 campuses have a special needs ministry. We have a special needs class on Sunday mornings, specifically for special needs kids. It's in a sensory-friendly environment. We have a respite night once a month that you can sign up for if you need that time, where you can drop off not just your special needs child, but any of the other siblings. And we'll take care of them for about a 3-hour period. So you and your wife or husband or partner can go out, have a little bit of time together, try to reestablish some of that connection that you need to maintain in a strong way. Would love to have you visit with us. If you would like to get in contact with me ahead of time, I'd be happy to direct you in one of those areas. But we're a congregation that really feels called to serve the special needs community. So would love to have you visit with us. And Megan, what about yourself?
Yes, so I also have my website, haupertconsulting.com, where I help families navigate those first steps of the autism diagnosis through the insurance, through what services are best for my child after really diving into their diagnostic information, and then also helping them find places for services. So check me out at Haupert Consulting, my website, or you can find me on social media at Haupert Consulting as well.
We would love to get questions. If you have questions, if you're on the autism pathway and you've got questions for us, we'd love to be able to answer those questions in some future podcasts that we would have. So if you would like, please contact us at autismfaithfamily@gmail.com. Love to be able to answer some of those questions for you.
I think we've got Missy's information in the description below, as well as all the things we just talked about. So we thank you guys for tuning in. Missy, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your journey.
Thank you, guys.
And what you've
been a great
learned
blessing.
in this journey. So
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
thanks, guys.